Alright, we're using a 16-inch PSA mid-length 1-7 Freedom twist barrel that we've switched out the rail on and gas block on and put a new muzzle brake on it. It's got a 3x9 on it. We're going to shoot the block with 223 55 grain soft point monarch at 40 yards. If I can hit it. Alright, so this is what we're shooting today out of a 16-inch barreled AR. It's a 55 grain monarch. That head stamp will say PPU 223. This is pretty good soft points. Works really good on varmints. The block wasn't completely straight when I went to shoot it, so I aimed slightly to the right and hit here. As you can see, it's bulged quite a bit out the top and the bottom here, and we'll give you a better close-up look in a second. Okay, so this is the first impression. This is where the block was hit. It was slightly angled towards. This is the bottom of the block. That is the top of the block. Okay, so it was a slightly angling shot. Went in, as you can see, this massive bulge from that 55 grain soft point. We're going to give you a good look at what this thing turned out to be. The bottom of it is just, it reminds me of some of the other tests I've done, where that shock wave is actually sucked stuff back up in, and look at that, it's massively damaging. So we're going to attempt to cut down straight through this at the angle that it was shot in hopes that we can follow the actual bullet path. See, that bottom half's pretty hollow. Alright, there is roughly some of our cavity. As you can see, it's entered in roughly, I'd say she started bulging out 1 inch in. Massive destruction out through here, leaving lead. And you can see there's a piece of lead right there. And that may be the bullet because there's a piece of jacket with it. I have a 16-inch barrel at 40 yards, got 9 inches of penetration. But in that 9 inches, holy crap. So there is a chunk of jacket and a chunk of lead. That was not it. Might be this side over here. As you can see, it's the same way. Well, where the end of the block used to be would have been 9 inches. So let's go ahead, cut this again. Hopefully this will give us a better idea as we proceed through the block what the bullet did. So it entered the block. Looks like it started mushrooming out, and then like a vacuum, it actually sucked that bottom part of that block back up in there. As you can see, let's go a little deeper. Let's go another 1.5 inches or so in. You see, there's that blast we're talking about. Look at that hole up through there, and it just folded back in on itself from the shockwave. There we are. Go back a little bit more. Again, that cavity is still relatively wide, even at the end of this. We're still looking at 3 inches wide, 2 3/4 high. Look at that. Imagine that hitting you. If you're a varmint, you were done. I mean, the shockwave just sucked that bottom right back up in. I mean, that cavity had to have been 3-4 inches wide as it went. Here we are at the end of the block. I'm coming close to the end of the block, and you can still see there's a very clear channel being pushed through this block. And at the end here, you're going to start to see there's lots of the lead breaking off. A little bit at a time. Alright, now this block is 13, almost 14 inches long. It's like 13.5 inches long. And here we are at the last 4 inches of the block, so we're right at 10 inches. And we still have a very defined travel path of that bullet. It finally streamed down and started going. And I believe that's the bullet right there. As you can see, it's very well mushroomed. I'll have to get some weight and measurements on that. But the jacket is still attached. So that is still pretty impressive. Look at the size of that little guy. So there's our bullet before and after. That was a vicious little guy. Put out of again. Out of that block. Stopped 2 1/4, 2 1/2 from the end of my block. So that's roughly the same penetration I got with the 53 grain bobtail hull point matches. That's roughly the same penetration I'm getting out of some of the other ammunition I've been testing, 75 grains. But look at that power, that shock wave. You can tell in the wax how it bulged out, that shock wave. So it left a great cavity, but it left even a very impressive temporary stretch cavity out there. You can see this place is just riddled with lead, so I bet you it lost 2/3 of its weight. And this whole section got basically warped back up into that hole. And that's pretty impressive for a little 223. Do it again. Good. Okay, so we're going to get some measurements here. This is at 55 grain that we just shot. And at its widest point, it's at 593. At its narrowest point, it is at 325. And considering the hole that this thing left, I really didn't expect that it would even be this much held together. I mean, the jacket's still attached, so we're about to weigh it, see what it came with. I'm guessing it lost 2/3 of its weight. Alright, so we got our bullet in there. Got it all zeroed out, and we weighed it. Looks like 28.5 grains of remaining weight from a 55 grain bullet. After, what was it, 10 inches of penetration?
Yeah. So I added a few of the pictures at the end of the video. This is to show that shock wave, when you get that stretch cavity, there's that vacuum as it's going through the wax, and you do see in a lot of these tests how it buckles back in. And not only that, but how to compare that the 55 grain did to some of the other ones. We have a 75 grain AMAX in there. We have a 75 grain bobtail hollow point. We've got a 7.62 by 54R rimmed surplus, both fired through steel and fired just straight into the block. So I have a lot of these test videos on there, so if there is something that you want to test, and I have it, I'll be glad to shoot it in the block. But you know, just let me know down below what you want to see shot in the block. I think I'm going to do a 30-06 test soon, a 270 test, and a 40 and 9mm test coming up.